all webinar participants, and hope this webinar series are quite useful in gaining knowledge. And on behalf of LIS Academy and NCS Net, I thank all participants for supporting us and participating in this webinar series. So after looking at various registrations, like we have a registration from students and LIS professionals who are starting their careers. So what I have done, I have prepared my slides, keeping them in mind, and it will be a very basic, and I will be introducing to a tool called Drupal, by using which you can design a dynamic website, right? And it's also an open source tool. So previous speaker told about how we should design a website and what are the security measures we should take care in order to be compliant for a government norms and all. So now the question comes, so why we need, first question is why we need website. For example, LIS Academy is organizing a third conference, and they have come out with a website. And why we need to have a website for any event or any firm or any business person or any in service sector firm like. So first and foremost goal is we have to reach out our customers, right? And also, as far as we want to widen our customer, for example, in case of library, we have to reach our user community, and we have to deliver our services. So the first and foremost objective is to reach out our customers, right? And also websites will provide a virtual space, virtual meeting place for our customers, maybe our patrons or users, right? So that's one more objective to have a website for any firm. And also showcase your services, products, create a brand, establish credibility. There are various reasons for anybody to design a website. So now, so you all agree with me that the library and information science domain is one which has got impacted due to the advent of ICT technologies in all spheres of library and information science. Maybe take it as a resources. Earlier we used to have a print resources. All our libraries used to be comprised of print documents of various document types. Now then the technology came, and it all migrated from print to electronic devices like magnetic devices like magnetic tapes, floppies, optical devices like CDs, DVDs, etc. Now at this point we have moved to completely a digital, right? It can be a virtually sitting somewhere else on a publisher side, or it may be available in a e-format. So we have content has been evolved from print to digital. Look at the user end. So earlier there is a lot of football for our libraries to access our print documents. They used to physically come and sit at library and refer our library documents. Then internet came and ICT technologies came. People started accessing within the campus through their desktop or laptops. Now the scenario is it's totally virtual. Now users wants to have the access to freedom, like whatever devices they have. They may have a smartphone, they may have a iPad, they may have a laptop, desktop. They don't want any restrictions. They want on whatever devices they have. So this is the scenario now. Now what libraries also started evolving from serving this generation X, generation Z, Gen Z user community by providing a lot of information services in a digital mode, right? So now what is the option left for librarians? Now we have to adapt for this change. And unfortunately the technology, the ICT technology is not our core domain. So we have been taught, we have been equipped to deal with the documents, the information. So we catalog, we classify, we organize them. And technology came, and technology impacted our domain. Fortunately, some schools are proactive, and they have introduced this technology component in their syllabi, and they are trying their best to educate library students, library information science students about these technologies. But said and done, technology is not our core area, and we as a library science students find difficulty in implementing these technologies independently. So what is the option now? Now we have a one side digital users. Maybe they expect everything in digital mode, and the other side we have a content in digital mode sitting somewhere else. Now as a library, what we have to do, we have to connect both of them. Though how do we connect? we connect, maybe establishing a website or a web portal for your library where you will integrate a lot of services, maybe your OPAC or your access to your digital content or archiving repositories, so on. Okay, so having a robust website or a web portal for a library is a need of an hour now. So because we will be spending a lot of money on e-resources. Now, if you take higher education institutions or research institutes or corporate library, their subscription is almost 80% of their budget goes to electronic resources. So now a web portal or a website is a need of an hour. So how do we deal with this? Because it's not my area, right? So now the question is, how do we build a website? So what are the possibilities where I can put my library website in place, right? So you have three options. One, of course, a basic website is we can design as a static website where we design some HTML pages, put them in a server software, and we serve them as a library website or a website of any institution. So what I have seen, a lot of institutions library websites will be most probably a page in a organization website, right? So they may not have an independent website. So now, as a library professional, so it's always it always motivates us to build a library website and serve our content to the user so that they can appreciate, they can use efficiently the library services, right? And we have one more type of websites, which is more of a database driven website called dynamic websites. And of course, we have CMS, content management system based websites. Again, they are dynamic websites. So we'll try to explore, we'll try to understand how this website works and what are the capabilities of content management system based website. And later we will also see what are the tools available, and we will explore one tool called Drupal, which is an open source content management system. So that's the plan of my presentation. So now, what are the static websites, right? So these are the web pages exist as a individual HTML pages, and you can design these HTML pages using various HTML editors like Dreamweaver. We have a Microsoft product, and we have a WYSIWYG HTML editor, which is an open source, which is a free tool. So you will design a web page, basically HTML page for your institution. Your website may have a number of HTML pages, and these pages, what you do, you keep these pages in a server root document. Okay, you have to have a server software for this, and you will place all these pages in the server root document, and you will start serving them. Okay, if you register your domain name, you can serve them through your domain name. Otherwise, it will be served on your IP number, public IP number, what you have for your server, right? So there may be a situations where you may not have hardware infrastructure also. Okay, so you are very much passionate to design your website for your library, but you don't have hardware infrastructure, and fortunately, you may have network connectivity. Nowadays, network connectivity is not an issue at all. So you may have a network connectivity, and what are the options for you? You can always go for a third-party web host. Like it's again kind of a cloud service where many agencies, they are offering you to design a free website. Basically, you can go there and put all your website HTML pages there. You can design whatever pages you want, say about page, home, or whatever the services, e-resources, etc., etc., and you will upload there, and you will start serving there. You have one example of that library homepage, which is been designed on Weebly. Okay, so you start building your website, and you will serve your community, your user community. So this is one way of designing your website as a static website. So what are the limitations of this static website? So as we know, library is a growing organism. It grows in content wise, it grows in user wise, also it grows in services wise. Say you have a static website where you have designed 5 HTML page in when you started designing, hosting your website. So as days goes on, so 5 will become 20. Then you have to interlink each other, right? All 20. Okay, you can manage on day 2 also. if your number of pages increases day by day, then it will become a huge mess. You have to interlink each other, then it will become a tedious job. So this is the basic limitation of having static homepage, right? So what is the solution for this? Okay, as an advantage side, it's quick and easy to develop, and there is no cost. Basically, if you are making your own server and serving that, as far as development cost, as I'm telling. So what are the other side disadvantages? Again, content management can get messed up. So as the number of pages increases, you will have a tough time to manage them, and may not be user friendly. You may not have a latest interactive web functionalities, like it's very difficult to embed interactive services. And what is the solution for this? You need to go for a dynamic website, right? So what is dynamic website? It's again a site controlled by an application server processed server side scripts. It's basically a database driven website, and you will have you will develop web pages instead of not only HTML. You will embed lot of scripting languages, so that whenever user requests come, it understands that request and it pass on to the database, then retrieves the required information. And whatever content generated to the user request is dynamic. It will be sitting somewhere in the database. On fly, it will generate that content and it will serve, right? And there is no interconnecting each page like that. So there will be an easy way to navigation, create a navigated HTML pages. And you can design you can also design an interactive website, like users can submit their information in the form of forms. They can search your web content, and you can have a profile based service and so on. And also you can have a access based user roles using dynamic website. This is our website, but we have developed using PHP scripting language, and we are using MySQL as a database, backend database. So typically how this dynamic website works. So whenever user sends his request, a remote user sends his request via browser, it comes to server, for example, Apache or IIS or IIS, whatever server software you're using. Once the request comes to server, then that request is handled by a scripting language, which you have used to develop your website, and it interprets that incoming request, and it goes to database and picks up the required information and gives it to server. Again, in turn, server will serve the user the answer which is required by the user. This is how your dynamic website works. In case of static website, only there won't be any scripting language and database. There will be only server software sitting here, and all your HTML pages will be sitting in the root directory of this server. So whenever user requests a particular page, that page will be served from here only. So there is no scripting language and database business here. So this is how dynamic website works. So what are the advantages? Of course, you can design a user-friendly website. So you can embed a lot of latest interactive web functionalities by coding them, and content updation becomes easy, unlike in static home page. What are the disadvantages? Again, it's technology or programming is not my domain. So library science students may find difficulty in coding whatever scripting languages what I have given, and we have to depend on the developers or the programmers or the commercial designers who have developed our websites. So that's one. And of course, lack of programming language for us, since we are not into that. So what is the solution for this? So we have a CMS based website where there is no need for having a programming language. We have to just select and embed those functionalities in our website. That we will see how to do that. So now, before going to content management system, what is content for us? Basically, content is nothing but the information that is expressed through some medium. It may be a writing, or it may be a text, or it may be a speech, or it may be a any scientific invention, etc. Right? In the present context, is the information that you tag with the data, so that computer can organize and systemize it as a collection, and that collection is managed and also it helps in publishing that content so that the end users can access that. So this is what the content, and what are the content types we come across in this digital environment. So one content type is structure. It may be well structured with a markup language, which we find using various HTML, XHTML or XML as a structured content. There may be unstructured content also, right? And there are source document with metadata. For example, if you go to all e-journals, they have a metadata element, then linked to the full text of that journal article. And there may be a scenario where there may be a very PDF files which may be useful and which may not have metadata, where you have to embed metadata. You may sometimes you may get only metadata without or with or without source document. And as a librarist, we come across a lot of free content which is there in open access domain, which may be very relevant, which will be very useful for our user community to serve. Or we may have a subscribe based content, subscribe content from various SCI publishers. And also there may be internal content which generated at your own institution, and there may be external content. So whatever content management system you plan should take care of all these kind of content types. And what are the content formats you may get? There are various file formats. For example, if you take it as a text, there may be HTML text, there may be a ASCII text, there may be a PDF, PPT, Word, and so on. So there may be a binary objects where your institution may be engaged in developing some software, right? There may be a photo collection or image collection, and there may be a multimedia collection in audio or video format. So these are the various content formats which whatever system you plan, whatever web portal you are planning should take care. So what is content management? It's nothing but management of content by combining some rules, who can access, who can update, right? And process it. For example, if you have established a process of publishing that content, it has to follow that process, work in such a way that electronic storage is deemed to be managed rather than unmanaged. So it should facilitate the management of your content or your information, whatever you are organizing in your website. So what is content management system? It's nothing but a software, piece of software or a bundle of software which will facilitate you to organize, collaborate, and create the new content and publish it. Okay, so this is what content management system is. And why you need content management system? As I told you, if you have a static website, your content will be haphazard. You may find it difficult to organize it. If you have a properly planned, well designed, well planned implementation of your website through content management system, you can organize them systematically, right? So what are the functions of this content management system? So first and foremost, it should help us to create content. And if content is created somewhere else, it should allow us to capture that, right? And also it should publish so that the end users can access that. And also as a librarians, we are meant for organizing the content, right? Organizing our classification teaches us to how do we organize systematically so that the end users can retrieve efficiently or easily, right? So the content management system should help us to organize the content. There are various taxonomies and ontologies built into this system so that we can classify this content, digital content, and organize that. And also we can store that. And also retrieval is a very important functionality for any website or a web portal where you are serving your lot of e-content. So it should have a robust search in terms of simple search, advanced search, or field-based search, and so on. And retrieval should be very efficient. And also we want to have a longer preservation of this document, digital document, what we have captured. And also the copyright or rights, access rights management, it should support access rights management. And administration should be quite easy. Most of them are web-based administration, so that you can administer your website anywhere, any part of the world, if you have an internet connectivity and access grants to that. And if you have a lot of external content which is not imported to it should allow you to integrate that content so that you can serve through your web portal or a website. And integration with other applications, like we have an automation package, automation software, and that OPAC should be integrated, should be embedded in your portal. So that kind of API or a plugin should be available to integrate these kind of, for example, repositories, e-prints or DSpace, automation like Koha or any other automation package, and any other applications which you may be running at your library, right? So these are the major functionalities. So one should look at content management system. So what are the features one should look and finalize the tool before before implementing website through that particular tool, right? So there should be a multi-platform. We may have Windows, some may have Linux variant, some may have Mac. So any good CMS system should support any platform. It should be a platform independent, like multi-platform. And also many CMS tools supports multi-site. On one installation, you can serve different sites, websites. For example, if you are in an organization, in one installation, you can have a college or a university website. You can have a departments of various department websites. You can have a library website. So multi-site, and also on single site, multi-collection. You can have a several collections, several type of collections. Okay, and role based. See, single person cannot do every functions of any institution or any website. So if you have a staff, entire staff, so there should be a possibility to assign a role. For example, collection A will be taken care by so and so person, collection B, collection C, so on. So there must be a multi-role based system and multilingual support, right? As previous speaker was pointing out, in Indian government website, if you want to be a compliance for government norms, you need to have a bilingual or a trilingual websites, like one English, one national language, and one regional language. So any system you select, it should support that functionality. Now most of the web application tools are Unicode compliant, so multilingually capabilities are automatically taken care. And personalization, of course, we want to look different from each other. If you see your dresses also may not be similar to each other unless until it is a compulsory uniform kind of a thing. So we want to be look unique. So similarly, our website also should look unique. It should different from one organization to another organization. So that kind of personalization, customization should be supported by this kind of CMS what you plan. And flexibility, again, the functionality aspect of websites varies from one institution to other. So it should be flexible enough to tweak between these functionality. So I should be free to implement this kind of flexibilities. And also now Web 2.0 services are quite common, and many people wish to embed their social media tools in their website. So content management system should support that. And there are various other features like site usage. How do you track the incoming users, and what are the statistics? What is the download statistics? What is the access statistics? Those kind of things needs to be supported. And logging and reporting for some part of website may not function properly. So your CMS should automatically inform or automatically report that this particular functionality is not working properly. So caching is again one more feature where lot of dynamic websites are employed. Like for example, some part of your website may be very popular and many users access that. So as I told you, in dynamic website, each time when user sends a request, your scripting language will process that, goes to database and takes back that required information and give it to server, then user. This takes a lot of time. So in such cases, these popular services, popular pages can be stored in a cache. So whenever request comes to that, it will be served from there itself. So by avoiding a load on this your server software by processing the entire query. So caching features also very important for popular websites where content is served. And web-based administration will enable administrator to work from anywhere. Just he has to log in and update that. And now there are various CMS tools. They offer you templates. You need not design from the scratch. There are already available templates. You can pick up those templates and start adding content, your content to that. And you can establish a website. And searching, of course, there are various forms of searching like simple search, advanced search, field-based search. If your collection is very huge, so that it will help you to retrieve in a much efficient way. Okay, and also browsing, hierarchical browsing you can employ. And of course, if you go for any software package, it should have a proper documentation so that whenever you want to refer that, so it should enable you to go through that and solve that particular problem. And also when we talk of open source software, there should be an active community who can always help you either through discussion forums or mailing lists and so on. So these are the various features you should look for before finalizing any open source content management tool or any content management tool for that matter, if you want to develop a website using them. So how this content management system works? So this portion is the same as I told you, dynamic website, and only extra will have your webmasters. Okay, for content updation. So backend they will be updating content for your website, and again they are role based. Each person can be designated to a particular service or a particular collection. For end user, it's as normal as a dynamic website. He comes to server through browser, and that scripting language will process that query, goes to database and picks up the required information and supplies to the user. In content management system, again the picked up information is again formatted using various modules, themes, views, and it will be presented to the user in a standard format what you have employed. So what are the content management systems available in the market? There are plenty of content management system in both open source, commercial, and there are various service providers, cloud service providers. They use this content management systems where you can just subscribe to their cloud service and start putting your content. As far as open source content management systems are concerned, these are the most popular and widely used content management tools: WordPress, Drupal, and Joomla. So today we will explore what is Drupal, and there are equally good open source content management systems. So I cannot say which is best or which is poor or which is not good. So all are good in their own way. So as a developer, as an implementer, you should analyze, and whichever meets your requirement, you should pick that and you should go ahead with developing your website. So there is a website where you can compare these web tools. And as far as CMS marketplace is, more than 200 companies are offering commercial content management systems. So you can go and evaluate, and you can if you feel satisfied, you can compare, you can go with them. There are more than 100 plus open source CMS are available, and there are various internet service providers as they provide content management service as a software as a service. Okay. And if you look at the statistics, where what are the CMS softwares usage? If you see 51% is taken by WordPress. So I have taken top 1 million websites as a sample. So if you go to this website, they allow you to map various web technologies, compare various web technologies. Why WordPress is highly used? Because when I went into deep, this WordPress is used to design blog sites, conference sites, or some smaller sites, small organization. When you look at the portal kind of a thing where you want to implement or embed various functionalities, I think Drupal has got an edge. I'm not saying WordPress doesn't support that. WordPress also support that. They have a very beautiful themes, modules, functionalities and all. But what I have seen is more of conference sites or blog sites, so where they make it to 50%. If you look at the Drupal, which is again 5%, almost 5%, they are the major websites like library or organization sites as built using Drupal. And there is a cmsmatrix.org where you can compare hundreds of open source content management systems feature wise. They compare each and every aspect of this tool and what is the kind of support these softwares will do. So you can go through that and you can, before finalizing that. Now coming back to the today's core tool like Drupal, and we'll try to see what are the functionalities and what are the terminologies, and we'll also see some of the websites designed using Drupal. Okay. So what is Drupal? Again, Drupal is a product of open source project devoted to development of dynamic website, as I told you in the earlier. And basically it's a content management system. This means system to manage your website content like article, photos, images, or anyway, any sort of website you can develop. And initially it was developed by Dries Buytaert as a message board when he was in a university. Then the open source community developed it as a full-fledged open source content management system. And Drupal has won several packed open source technology awards. Okay, it's quite popular and well used among web community. So what are the features of Drupal? So again, it's an open source software available under GNU General Public License. So you can use it for your own purpose and you can customize, but you are not supposed to make commercial output of that. Okay. And it's available in various versions. So these versions are very important. We will see the importance of this version when we go on in the presentation. And presently 7 and 8 versions are widely used, and whenever there is a major change they change the series, for example 7x to 8x, right? Okay, and you can download this at drupal.org. It's totally free. Okay, and it's available for multiple platforms. As I told you, you can use it on any platform like Unix variant, Linux variant, Solaris or Windows, etc. And you can create a multi-site and multi-collection in a single installation, and also it supports multi-role based permission. You can have any number of permissions. Basically they are categorized into 3 types. One is anonymous users. For them registration is not required. Anybody can come and access the possible content what you have opened up freely. Okay, if you have a set access control, of course anonymous users cannot access that. And you can have a registered users. Again, registered users will have a role based specific permissions. So again, content updations will be some authorized users, and access controlled content users are also will be the registered users. Now, of course you will have a so admin who is a super user and will have an entire control over your website. Okay, and it's also Unicode compliant. That means any language, any written language of the world is compatible with that. You can build a website in any language, and it also allows you to personalize. So they have something called themes. So using that you can personalize your web interface, right? Whatever way you want. Just pick and choose model, right? Color combination, the blocks, the menus, everything can be customized as per your requirement and your taste. And flexibility, Drupal works on modules based, which can be easily enabled. For example, we will see what are modules in a later part of my presentation. These modules will enable the functionality of your website. Okay, and it also supports various web 2.0 functionalities, like you can integrate your blogs, your discussion forum, or you can create a wiki there. You can have a RSS feeds. Okay, you can embed your Twitter or Facebook accounts of your library if you have. And also you can, there are modules for content syndication. That means whatever new things you update on your website, and if you enable this content syndication functionality, it generates a RSS feeds for your website, so that end users can subscribe to that and they will be automatically informed about the updation of your website. And similarly, there is a news aggregator module where you can subscribe to other websites and keep track of what are the new updates on those sites. For example, you can use that as a table of content service. For example, you may list out journals which are relevant to your organization, and if you want updates of new articles in those journal, you can set a news aggregator. Okay, and you can have a version control. For example, if you design a page and later part you update that, you can retain the old one. Some point of time you want to revert back to old one, you can just enable that, so need not to be created freshly. So it also supports various version control. and you have a various statistics analysis, like various reports can be generated weekly, daily, hourly, or yearly. Visits can be tracked, and also they have a very good logging and reporting mechanism where if any part of your website doesn't work, so it automatically says this node or this page doesn't work properly. You look at it and try to rectify that. As I told you, it also supports the caching features where you can reduce a load on your server for a popular content. It can be served through cache only, and it is a web-based administration. I can update my website anywhere in the world if I have access to that, if you have a internet access. And one interesting thing is that, for example, there comes a predefined installation profile. For example, I want to design an e-commerce site. So I need not study each and every part functionality aspect of e-commerce site. So there are ready-made profiles. I can just borrow that profile and start adding content to that. For example, if I want to build a new site, or if I want to build a library site, there are profiles already available. What are the modules it should use? What are the themes it should use? What kind of menu system you should have? These are all predefined profiles are there. Okay. And for example, if you want to have a particular page, there are templates available. So you need not do coding for each profile or each template design. So there are available ready-made. Okay, you just pick them and use as per your convenience. As far as the information retrieval aspect is concerned, it supports all sorts of search functionalities like simple search, field-based search, advanced search, etc. And also you can have a hierarchical browsing. They have a very good taxonomy module where you can organize your content, organize your entire digital content from broader to narrower, right? So users can browse down from broader to narrower and get information whatever you want. And you can have any type of e-content collections. Like if you want to have a e-book, or if you want to publish a collaborative book, you can enable particular model so that authors can log into that particular page and start writing that book. And there are various types. If you want to have a web resource catalog, you can design a web resource catalog, a collection type. And as I told you, you can design various kinds of website. Like if you want e-commerce, Drupal allows you to create a e-commerce, news, institutional, library specific websites, etc. And as I told you, as an open source, they have got a very good documentation which you can rely upon. They have an online discussion forum, lot of audio video material on YouTube which you can refer, and you can refer while designing that. And they have a very active community. They have an online chatting facility where you can ask particular query, and you can expect response almost immediately. So whoever has solved that particular problem will reply to that, right? So now I have got a fair idea about what is Drupal and what are its capabilities in terms of functionalities. Now how do I go about, and what are the environment in which I can install Drupal, right? And I don't have a technical expertise. I don't know what are the server software, what are the databases available, and what are the scripting languages, and how do I go about. So let's explore what kind of environment Drupal needs to install. It's quite simple, very simple. You need to have a web server, right? And database and PHP. These are the three important components for any dynamic website. Not only for content management system, for any dynamic website you develop manually. Of course, on top of that, you need to have a PHPMyAdmin for a easy GUI-based administration of database creation and all those things. And of course, you need to have a browsers to communicate between you and the server. Okay, and there are a packaged. All three are packaged into one stack-based bundled package called XAMPP for Linux platforms and WAMP for Windows. So in one click, you can install all these three. We will see what each one in detail. So as far as the web server is concerned, we need to have a server software installed on our system. As far as the hardware configuration is concerned, it's again depends on type of collection you are going to build, type of website you are going to pull, and what are the user community, targeted user community, and the bandwidth access. All those things you should take care. As far as Drupal installation is concerned, you can install on ordinary desktop and make that as a server, website server. Okay, any ordinary desktop system will do. But again, if you are going for a full-fledged website, you should plan your hardware accordingly. Okay. So now, what are the web servers which Drupal works? So most of web open source technologies will prefer Apache because it's also open source web server software. And if you look at ePrints, if you look at any other OJS, PKP, or any web application which is in open source, they prefer Apache as a server software. So again, Apache is a open source web server software developed by Apache Foundation, and it's a platform independent. It's available for Windows, Unix, Linux variants, and Mac. And you can do that. If you look at the usage, almost 42% of web technologies which are there on the internet are using Apache web server. Okay, and also these Drupal versions are very specific to this dependency software version also. For example, if you are using latest version of Drupal, you have to use latest Apache version also. Okay, so they are basically interdependent. When I say database is again another requirement for any web dynamic website. So most preferably people go for MySQL. Now all MySQL and MariaDB are using, and this MySQL also is Drupal version specific. For example, Drupal 6, if you want to use, at least MySQL should be 4.1 and above, Drupal 7 5 and above, and Drupal 8 and Drupal 7 are the widely used versions which expects this database versions. Okay, and what is MySQL is again open source relational database management system, which is again available free. And if you look at the statistics, I think MySQL has been used 25%, and MariaDB, MySQL, and one more software, PostgreSQL, these are the three open source database management software which are widely used, and these are Unicode compliant. That means they take care of multilingual content. Okay, then the scripting is a communicator, is a messenger between the user and the database, the content which is hidden in the database. So they establish communication, and the scripting language which Drupal is used is PHP. And again, as I told you, PHP versions also depends on the Drupal version. If you are planning to implement 8, at least PHP 7 and above should be installed. So you may be wondering, there are various tools as a library science professional, how do I install? Like, I don't have any knowledge about these technologies, and I'm alone at my institutes, and how do I go about? Don't worry. Of course, as a browser, it's part of your operating system. You can use any of these browser. Drupal works on this. As I was telling, how do I create a stack environment for Drupal? So I cannot install one by one and configure. It's a very difficult task for me as a non-technical person. So what you can do, you can always go for, if you're using a Windows environment, you can go for a WAMP, or if you're using a Linux environment, you can go for a XAMPP. Basically, WAMP is Windows, Apache, MySQL, PHP. It's a combined pack. Just you have to download that as per your 32-bit or 64-bit hardware, and just double click that. In a few clicks, all three components will be installed at your system, and now your system is actually a server which can take Drupal installation. Then you can go ahead with Drupal installation. So once you install Drupal, I know it's very difficult for me to teach you or make you expert in Drupal in 1 hour. So what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to introduce the concepts and the terminologies of Drupal, so that you can go back, and if you are really in need or really wanted to, you want to implement this, you can go back and attend some training programs, or you can go and follow video lectures or video YouTube channels, and you can proceed, right? So once you install, these are the folder structure. This is where I have installed it on a Windows environment, right? I installed WAMP, then I installed Drupal, and I have got this folder structure. If you go to C:, where default installation takes place, you will find a WAMP 64 version, and www is a your root directory, right? So you can see here, www will be a root directory for your website. So whatever pages you serve from your root directory has to be placed there. So whatever web pages you will develop. No? So this iCast is my website. So all iCast, all web related applications of iCast site has been placed here. Okay, and you have various subfolders like as I told you, Drupal comes with the profiles. For example, I want to have a e-commerce website, or I want to have a library website. I can pick up a library profile and start using that, start adding content to that if I am satisfied with that. Okay, then you have a modules themes. We will see what are these terminologies. Again, these are the subfolders inside your core modules. And this is what I was telling. So one, if you want to understand Drupal and what are its capabilities, these terminologies are quite important to understand. One is modules. Whenever I say modules in the context of Drupal, it adds a functionality to my website. Okay. So whenever you add a module, you will be adding a new functionality to your website. So there are three types of modules. One is core modules, which is required to serve your website. Without that, your website will not come up at all. Okay, these are the core. Again, it is packaged in your Drupal installation and enabled also. No need to worry. And there are contributed modules which are packaged with your Drupal but not enabled. If you want, you can enable. For example, blogs. If you want to have a blog on your website, you should go back to modules panel and enable that. Okay. And can you imagine there are 44,000 modules? That means 44,000 type of functionalities are there. There may be a version control. For example, for 7, there may be a 15,000 functionalities. There for 8, there may be a 10,000. For 6, all put together there are 44,000 functionalities. And these are version specific. For example, if you have installed Drupal 7, and if you download a module of Drupal 8, it will not work. Okay, so it's a version specific, and 44,000 modules are not a small number. So you can always browse through, and whichever functionality you want, just pick that, install it on your Drupal, or if it is a part of your core package, just enable it. Okay, and some modules need dependency modules also. Okay, this is about core and contributed modules. There are other third-party modules. Again, these are developed by the open source community. For example, today I have installed my Drupal, and I am in search of a peculiar service which is required by my institution. So that I will develop that by taking help of programmer or myself. I will develop, and I will share that module with Drupal community so that others can use that. So like that, there are various third-party modules. And if you go to that particular third-party module, you find two variants. One is recommended release, one is development release. Always go for a recommended release because it's already tested and developed and put there. Okay. So this is the modules panel, and these are the various modules available. Okay, aggregator. News aggregator is a part of Drupal default installation. If you want to have a RSS feed, if you want to generate a RSS feed, just enable this. That's all. So this functionality will be built into your website. So you can, whatever new content you update on your website, automatically RSS feed will be generated. Okay. Similarly, you have various various modules, and to install third-party module, just click on this. Either you download that third-party module, a zip file, and upload here, or just you give a link to that so that Drupal will install automatically. Okay, this is about modules. And themes. Again, the look and feel of your website, the layout, the color combination, the structure depends on these themes appearance. Okay, there are various themes. Of course, there are 2,800 different type of themes are available, and there are some paid themes which are again built in some specific modules, specific functionality that, and they are around $30 to $40 or $50 based on the service providers. The paid themes, you can purchase them, and what you have to do is you should put them in the themes folder of your Drupal installation and enable them. For example, this is a theme. This is a web resource catalog we have designed at NAL. So what we have done, we have used a free theme. Okay, and these colors and all, I will have a flexibility to change this color and the format, the menu blocks, etc., etc. So this will allow us to change the look and feel of your website in just clicking. I need not do programming here for changing the color or the layout, etc., etc. Okay. And again a menu. So menu is mainly used to browse from broader to narrow. And again, there are various themes which supports menu blocks. For example, in menus itself, we have a three type of menu. One is navigation menu, which is used for a administrator or a content developer. And there are primary links, which mainly you put it here. This is a primary link, which is again used, which are the major links. And if you have again secondary links, which are again which can be a user created menu system. Okay, so these are the menu. Again, these menu blocks are depends on your theme, what kind of theme you select. Okay, and there are called blocks. Again, in one page you can have a several blocks, like a header block, footer block, right side. In that you can have a several blocks, and the main block, which is a body where you can put your main content. And you can, again, these blocks depends on the themes, what kind of theme, and the theme should support these block areas. Okay, and in each block you can serve different informations like news clips or news about your organization, or new arrivals, new books arrivals, new journals, etc., etc., how you plan. And the content, anything you add in Drupal, it's treated as a node. Okay, for example, if I'm creating a about page, that about page will be a one node. Okay, that will be permanent. So in Drupal you can have a various content types, like you can have a page, you can have a stories, you can have a catalogs, and you can also have a advanced content like custom content, which for that we need to install a again a advanced module called CCK module. Okay, so this is how content looks. And the views, again, you can customize the display of the content what you have built. For example, if you want to display your content in a tabular form or a grid form, so all those are controlled by views. Okay, and the user management, basically Drupal supports two kinds of user management things. One is roles. You can create a roles for a particular users, and based on that role you can enable the permission. Okay, for example, authenticated users, you can have a collection based user committee who can edit, who can delete, who can update the collection. So those are all the permissions you are allowing to those users. And anonymous users are the end users who comes to your website. This is how user management is taken care. For you will have a super user administrator, then you create a various roles, moderator, content creator, and subject expert, etc., and you allow them to, you give a permission to access a particular collection. Okay, so Drupal diversity, Drupal has got various functionalities and is mainly used in almost all type of websites. You can see retail firms have designed websites using Drupal. You have financial, sports, you name the domain, they have almost all type of, and they have a government websites also. And these websites are again it's a compliance of vulnerability audits and all what our previous speaker spoke about. And I have listed few websites which are designed using Drupal. They are basically education and specifically library websites. Maybe before finalizing your website plan, it's always better to visit and what kind of functionalities they have built in their websites, and what kind of modules and the themes, blocks. Again, you will get an idea, fair idea. And this is one. University of California, they have built their website using website Drupal, and they have a primary menu drop down, which is again a Java based drop down menu system with a hierarchical structure, and they have a secondary menu, and the search functionality is enabled in that. Okay, so this can be enabled just clicking enable or disable, no need to program that. This is one more education, MIT School of Science, they have developed using Drupal, and they have used various modules, what I was telling. They have used feeds, workbench moderation, panels, and they have used a Zen theme as a Zen. And this is again a library website. You can see here, they have integrated their OPAC, their online articles, databases, journals. These are the APIs they have built in. So users can come here and search entire library services, library collection here. We did not go to each publisher site and search for that. So it's kind of a discovery they have embedded, and books and media, and you can look for other. These are the various modules and themes they are using. They have panels, views, features, IMC, SEK editors, etc., etc. So you can see this is our NAL remote access site. So where we have integrated all our subscribe content, free content, and our discovery tool, what we have subscription, and we have a AZ list of all our journals, ebooks, etc. And they can search by journal name, book name, and we have some announcements here. And this is one more service we have built using Drupal, which is a web resource catalog. What we have done, we have evaluated various aerospace related websites, and we have built a custom based content here by custom fields using CCK. And this is one more website where IISc library has come out with using Drupal, and they also have all publisher content integrated with the search option. And so why I have listed these websites is if you go to individual websites, the functionalities are different. The functionalities are unique based on their requirement. So Drupal supports almost all kinds of functionalities which library requires. So it's always better to evaluate these websites and note down and plan accordingly, and go ahead of designing your website using this kind of content management tool. This is one more Karnataka State Library Association website we designed way back in 2010. Again, it supports two languages. One is Kannada and English. The entire website in bilingual. Okay. So these are the various modules specifically available for library functionalities. Maybe there may be many more. So I have listed very few here. You can go through that. And as far as Drupal statistics, every day there are hundreds downloads are happening. So maybe you can look for module wise, date wise. For example, these are the various modules which are highest downloads. For example, CH tools, C tools, Path-Auto, views. These are the various modules which people are downloading. As on March 1st, there are 1 million downloads as recorded for Drupal core installation. And there are Drupal service developers. You can approach them. They develop a website for you using Drupal. So there are the various places. If you go to Drupal website, they have listed them. So you can approach anybody if you are, if budget will allow you to do that, or if you don't have a proper expertise to develop that, you can always rely on that. And there are cloud service provider as a software as a service. You can just go there and subscribe them, and they have a predefined, pre-installed Drupal installation environment there, so you can start adding your content. And these are again various service providers for Drupal cloud service. And what kind of support you get as an open source package? You can see they have online chat, they have forums, they have books, they have reporting system. Whatever the bugs they have fixed, they have that. It's quite a very quite useful source to go through that. And there are online documentation guides, YouTube channels. You can explore YouTube channels and get more information about that. And these are the various books available. Some are free, some are you have to purchase, on various Drupal versions also. Okay. So documentation wise, they have good backup facility for documentation. You can always refer to that. So that's all from me. So thank you very much. I think I have taken 10 minutes extra. Thank you. I have to stop sharing.
Thank you, Shivram. May I request Professor Tadsar to take over and moderate the session?
Yeah, thank you. Shivram, it's one.
Hello.
Wonderful lecture on how to introduce and all that. It was a wonderful talk to listen to you. Like Satish Kanmadi, you also have many questions, but your time has been, saved by Dr. Muruthu Pandian, who had answered almost 12 to 13 questions.
Oh,
I'll be taking few of them.
Yes,
to start with, there is one basic question from Sanghamitra.
Okay.
She had asked, what is the cost of designing website through Drupal in a university level? And will it be possible to install Drupal
Hello?
free of cost?
Your voice got cut. Can you repeat the second part of the question?
What is the cost of designing website through Drupal in a university level?
Okay.
Will it be possible to install Drupal free of cost?
As I told you, Drupal is an open source tool. So it's absolutely free. So if you have a required infrastructure in place in terms of hardware and connectivity and all, it's absolutely free. You can install that. As far as the web development, if you want to go for a cloud, Drupal as a cloud service, again, it depends on kind of functionalities you embed. Okay. And it's very difficult to quantify. Like you may have a lot of functionalities to be integrated that, and the service provider will charge accordingly to that. Of course, if you have a really passion towards technology, it's quite easy. A lot of documentation is available. Tools are free. You can implement on your own. And maybe you can attend some training programs or video lectures and get more insights to this tool. And I think you should be able to install, because we from library science back, we are able to install that. I think it may not be difficult for you also.
Okay. One more question. Ravish PY.
Yes.
Are you Ravish PY? What are the cross-platform issues in Drupal?
Drawbacks?
What are the cross-platform issues in Drupal? Cross-platform issues.
It's available for multi-platform. Like you have a Unix platform, you have a Linux platform. I don't see any, means I didn't understand what you mean by cross-platform. Like it's available, and there is no limitations, or there is no drawbacks as I see.
Yeah. Again, he had asked one more question. Again, he had asked one more question. What are the differences between callbacks coding architecture versus object-oriented coding architecture?
I think it is too technical. I don't think I will be a right person to answer. Maybe we have to see a technical who is into hardcore technology.
There is a question from Jitendra Jain. I have installed a WAMP for Omeka. Can I also add Drupal in the WAMP, or again separately I have to install it?
So yes, what is my understanding is already is running some service on WAMP, and you want to install say a Drupal on that. Yes, definitely you need to create a separate database for your Drupal installation, and in Apache you want to have a virtual host for that.
Neha has one more question for you. Use of URL path setting option while creating basic page. What is the use?
See, you are basically, as I told you, whenever you create a content on Drupal, it creates as a node. Okay. So that node will be a number. It will be a numerical number. Then if you use a path auto module, that name can be converted as a text mode, which may be easy to remember. So that path auto will avoid that whatever the extra characters, special character comes in URL into a simple text. So that's the functionality of path auto.
Last question by Selva Kumar. Since you are both library professional as well as information professional, what is the role of librarian in developing a web portal?
See, as I told you in the beginning of my presentation, now it's a need of an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
So now a lot of money or lot of resources are invested on digital resources. So those are all available online. So without a website for your library, you will be handicapped. So you have to aggregate all online resources or digital resources you have subscribed and along with the free, and integrate it to a single window, single platform. That may be your library website. And as a role, definitely it's your responsibility as a librarian. It is your primary responsibility to have a website. Either you design by you outsource, you get it done by somebody else, but libraries need to have a website to integrate all their content and all their services. That's my way of looking at it, and is a key person to implement this website for a library.
Oh, with these things, questions are over, and maybe there are a few more questions which you can answer them later. And it was indeed a good lecture on Drupal. You have put forth the things in a very simple language, and you have made to understand. And as you have told, it's very difficult to introduce the whole Drupal in 1 hour, but you have put in a lot of efforts in introducing the concept to the listeners or the who have been hooked to the Zoom. Thank you very much on behalf of the LIS Academy and NCSI Net. And I also take this opportunity to thank LIS Academy and NCSI Net for giving me an opportunity to moderate the session. One is my senior colleague Satish at KUD, and another is a junior alumni at NCSI Net, Shivaram. I am balancing between these two, and nice feeling for me. Thank you, Professor Konnur. Thank you, Professor Dr. Anand Bhairappa. Thanks, Dr. Satish and Shiv Kumar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And on behalf of LIS Academy and NCSI Net, we thank you for your effective moderation. Anyway, Anand will formally tell.
Yes.
And also, I would like to thank LIS Academy and NCSI Net Foundation giving me an opportunity to share my little learnings about this content management system. So I'm not a technical guy. So whatever I have learned and I have implemented at my institute, so I have shared that experience. And now I will hand over to Anand.
So first, I would like to thank Professor Tarsat for moderating both the sessions flawlessly, and it was nice to see a lot of questions coming up, and all of them are getting answered. Still, if any of you have any more questions, feel free to write to lisacademy.org@gmail.com, and all your questions will be answered in consultation with respective presenters. And so I would like to thank Professor Tarsat once again for making him, yourself free and moderating both the sessions. It was nice to see it happening so professionally. And also I take this opportunity to thank again both the speakers, Satish Munoli and B.S. Shivaram, for choosing such a nice topic and giving a splendid talks. And before I thank all the participants, Professor Konnur has something to announce. Also, it's needless to say that our thanks goes to Elsevier for supporting this seminar series. Now, I would request Professor Konnur to make a couple of announcements he may have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you one and all for being with us. And I don't need to extend so many thanks because most of the thanks have been exhausted by all my friends here. And LIS Academy is already almost thankful to all of you and the participants also. Now I have a couple of regular announcements which I need to answer. Even in a question and answer, I used to get these questions. Number one is certificate. Friends, certificate will be issued only after 21st of June. And for those people who have already attended 18 lectures out of the 24 lectures. Anyway, we are considering 12 lectures as a benchmark, and out of those 24 lectures, if anybody have attended 12 lectures, we will definitely issue a certificate of FDP, Faculty Development Program certificate we are trying to issue. We are also trying to get the recognition from AICTE and UGC also to consider this as a FDP program. Number two is the PPTs. Everybody is asking Shivaram's PPT and Satish PPT, and they have appreciated that these two are a very good the presentations. And we assure you, my dear friends, all PPTs will be made available to you through LIS Academy website. And shortly we are processing them and we will place it on the LIS Academy website. And thirdly, some of you have asked for the lecture videos. Yes, we have already started uploading the lecture videos one by one. And now it is available on YouTube. You please go to youtube.com/LIS Academy India. All no space, all small letters, LIS Academy India without any space. small letters, you type, and you will get LIS Academy YouTube official channel. What I request you to do is please go to the site and then subscribe the LIS Academy channel and ring the bell beside the subscription icon, where if you ring that bell, every time we upload the YouTube, the lectures to the YouTube, you will get a message and you will be able to know that a new